With the recent announcement that the Ultimate Universe will be ending following the conclusion of December's Ultimate Endgame, now is the perfect time to take a look back at the Ultimate Universe. What went well, what went wrong, and ultimately, is this a genius move from Marvel, or is it a mistake that will define their comics legacy for the rest of the decade? Hey everyone, it's the Caped Clinician, and today we're going to be doing a kind of pre-obituary for Marvel's Ultimate Universe. Just quickly, before we begin, I just want to give a really big thank you to Panels to Pixels. If you haven't seen his channel, he makes really incredible comic book themed videos, more tailored towards nostalgia for things like the amazing 90s Spider-Man animated series. I watched him long before I started my YouTube channel. He's a really big inspiration for me, and I was really lucky to be able to interact with him, and he gave me some feedback on my videos, which I'm really grateful for. So if you haven't seen his videos, please go and check them out. But honestly, my sincerest thanks. I really appreciate you taking the time to look into my videos for me. So let's talk about the Ultimate Universe, and there are 5 core series that have defined the universe so far. The Ultimates, Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Black Panther, and Ultimate Wolverine. We'll look at all of these in brief detail, and then we'll talk about, more crucially, how they tie together, and if the Ultimate Universe really works. Starting with the Ultimates, this is what I would consider to be the Ultimate Universe's flagship book, written by Dennis Camp and principally illustrated by Juan Frigeri. What this book does so effectively is to spotlight the different corners of the Ultimate Universe. If you didn't know, the universe began in the mini-series titled Ultimate Invasion, written by Jonathan Hickman, which set up the building blocks of this world. An evil version of Reed Richards called the Maker altered the history of this world. He prevented any heroes from ever existing, and also changed the politics and social hierarchies of the Ultimate Universe as well. I think that this is the Ultimate Universe's strongest book, because it really uses the concept properly. Denise Camp explores so many interesting themes like the prison system, revolution, and censorship, and it makes for a really fascinating read, and not only that, but it is crucial to the world building of the universe. But that world building focus is kind of a double-edged sword. Now, it's cool in a way to see how this world works, but in the context of the universe ending after Ultimate Endgame, it feels like a lot of this universe sets up things that won't be paid off. For example, the new Ultimate Universe 2 years in one-shot, which is coming out in December 2025, is introducing Ultimate Daredevil, which is really cool, but we're not really going to get any time with him. It was the same with the Ultimate Guardians of the Galaxy. Denise Camp said that he wanted to do an Ultimate Guardians of the Galaxy story, and he pitched it to Marvel, but considering the fact that the universe is ending now, there isn't really any space for it. Next up is Ultimate Spider-Man, written by Jonathan Hickman, with most of the art done by Marco Cicchetto, with David Messina as a frequent guest artist. Now, this was the book that I was the most personally excited about when it was announced. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, and so I was really excited to see a new take on the character, especially because he was married with kids. Now, I've spoken about this a little bit already on my channel. If you want to check out my first ever YouTube video, it was called Does Absolute Beat Ultimate? I went into a little bit more detail into Ultimate Spider-Man, but I don't really have that much praise for this book, which really pains me to say because I love this team. I love Jonathan Hickman, his stuff on Fantastic Four, Avengers, and Secret Wars, and I love Marco Cicchetto, specifically for his run on Daredevil with Chip Zdarsky. Definitely give that a read. But Ultimate Spider-Man is just the biggest load of wasted potential in this universe. In fact, Peter Parker is hardly in it. It's not really an Ultimate Spider-Man book, it's an Ultimate Green Goblin book. Clearly, Hickman has more of an interest in the deeper exploration of Harry Osborn as a character, particularly his tortured past as the son of Norman Osborn. I think that's great. I love the sound of an Ultimate Green Goblin book, but not when it's marketed as Ultimate Spider-Man. Peter is so obviously an afterthought in this story that we don't really get an insight into what this universe's version of the character would be like, given his different circumstances. But the art is incredible, and I think that Hickman's world building is really interesting for characters like the Sinister Six, Gwen Stacy, and yes, the Green Goblin. The last 3 books we're going to go through in a kind of lightning round, because I've really tried to get into them, but I'm not following these so closely. But it's not for lack of trying. I really especially wanted to get into Ultimate X-Men, but I just didn't manage. Now, that's not saying that Peach Momoko's artwork isn't incredible. In fact, I think it's brilliant. It's fascinating, it's unique, it's got that je ne sais quoi that I think makes artists stand out, especially in a landscape where we're exposed to so much art all the time. However, Ultimate X-Men just doesn't manage to hook me. Month after month, I try to read it, but it feels like nothing is going on. And I think there's a broader point about pacing in this conversation, and that reflects in Ultimate Black Panther as well. Now, Ultimate Black Panther is written by Brian Hill, with principal art done by Stefano Caselli, and I think Stefano Caselli's artwork is also really good, and I think Brian Hill does toy with some interesting concepts. For example, he gives vibranium, the metal that underpins the Wakandan Empire, its its own kind of consciousness, and he plays into the social order and the weird cult-like aspects of Wakanda in some very fascinating ways. But in terms of pacing, that book tends to really progress through quite a lot very quickly, in contrast to Ultimate X-Men, which feels like it's going at a snail's pace. And Ultimate Wolverine is probably just, unfortunately, the most bland of all of the books. Now, I think the highlight of this book, again, is the artwork. It's Alessandro Cappuccio, who I love from Jed MacKay's run on Moon Knight. Oh my goodness, if you haven't read that book, it's incredible. It's really what got me into Moon Knight in the first place, and I've been loving it. But Cappuccio left that book to do Ultimate Wolverine, and I think their artwork is just as good there, but the story just feels like a basic kind of X-Men story. It's nothing that really stands out, which is disappointing because the Ultimate Universe is meant to be a place where we radically reinvent these characters. So I think Ultimate Wolverine is probably the one that just sticks out the least, and I think you can see that on Reddit threads and other forums as well. So we've gone through the 5 major Ultimate Universe titles, but now it's time to talk about how they all intersect. After all, this is a universe, and part of the appeal of a connected universe is that eventually these stories, their characters, and their worldviews are going to intersect and clash. And there actually has been one Ultimate Universe crossover book that I've neglected to mention, but I'm saving it for now because I think it's really the biggest exemplification of why this universe just doesn't really work. The series that I'm talking about is called Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion, which features Miles Morales from the main Marvel universe crossing over into the Ultimate Universe. I thought this might be a fascinating way to have our Ultimate Universe characters meet for the first time, by using Miles as a kind of anchor point for everyone to revolve around. But that doesn't end up happening. In fact, I don't even know if it's canon to the Ultimate Universe. Someone let me know in the comments if I'm just completely wrong about this, but it feels like the characters just interact with Miles in isolation, but they never really mention him again, so I don't know if it actually counts towards the overall Ultimate Universe story. I know it matters to Miles, but I don't know if it matters for our heroes. Let me know in the comments. But this book is really disappointing because it's a lot of just dimension and story hopping without anything to genuinely link these things together. It's like a roller coaster ride. It's really cool to look at, but ultimately there's not really much of real meaningful substance there. That's what Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion really screams to me. It's just kind of style over substance, and I understand why they did it, but I think because of the ticking clock and the fact that we were getting close to Ultimate Endgame, it might have been a good idea to change that structure and actually bring these characters together for the first time in the Incursion story. Now, to be clear, I've been really critical of these books throughout this video, but it comes from a place of genuine love and care for these characters, for these creators, and for this universe. I think this universe is ripe with potential for incredible storytelling, and I think the artists and the writers that they have on these books are spectacular. They're some of the best in the game, and it just disappoints me that I don't think the Ultimate Universe has used its potential enough. So what does this mean for Ultimate Endgame? Well, Ultimate Endgame is going to have to do a lot to justify ending the Ultimate Universe here, and also being a satisfying conclusion for fans. But here's how I think that Marvel should go about doing it. This is the first time some of these characters have really interacted, and that is so fascinating, because this world is unlike the main Marvel universe. This time, the heroes are fighting to restore a timeline they've never even lived in. Now think about it this way, it must be great to be Spider-Man in this universe. Sure, it's crappy sometimes, but Peter has a family, he has a wife, he has kids, he has something to fight for. So why would Peter want to go back and restore the world to what might be a world without a family, more similar to the main Marvel 616 universe? But the Ultimate X-Men are kind of on the other end of the spectrum. They are terrorized constantly by the Shadow King in what's almost a horror-focused comic book, so they really want the world to be restored closer to what it's like in the 616. The 616 has its challenges, but it's not essentially a horror book starring a bunch of Japanese schoolchildren. So this is a really interesting way for us to get some interesting and dynamic character moments. Have Peter disagree with the Ultimate X-Men about how they're going to do things and why, and in doing that, build up on the world even further and give us an explanation into what exactly our heroes are fighting to do and why we should care. So as we inch ever closer to Ultimate Endgame, one thing sticks in my mind, and this is my message to the creators of the Ultimate Universe, not that any of them are going to watch this video, but just to hear me out. You've created an incredible universe, a universe that has inspired legions of new people to get into comic books for the very first time. Now, it's unfortunate that it's ending, and I I think that it's probably pretty premature, but in this pre-obituary, despite the fact that I've been very critical of these books, you can tell that this line of books has really inspired something in me, and I'm sure it's inspired something in you, the audience, the person watching this video at home. There must be something about the Ultimate Universe that's captured your imagination, that's made you think that it's radical, a reinvention of Marvel, and something that you might want to see continue. So for Ultimate Endgame, keep it down to earth, give us the character work that we've been missing. If you're going to send this universe off so early, at least send it off with a bang. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of the Ultimate Universe books and everything we spoke about today, including my opinions on all of the different comic books, and I want to hear from you. What are your favourite Ultimate Universe series, and where do you think the line is going to go? And most importantly, what are your hopes for Ultimate Endgame? I'm considering doing some kind of a rewrite or a revision of Ultimate Spider-Man, so let me know in the comments if you want to see that as well. But for more behind the scenes and bonus content, check out my Patreon, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.